is Ricardo Farinacci.
And today, let me introduce you to Robert Cobbs. Robert Cobbs is the founder and CEO of Tech Plan Genie. He has experience all around the world in education and ed tech, and his mission is to make modern education accessible to all students. So with that, let's begin. We were wondering what first inspired you to enter the world of education and technology, and if there was a defining moment or if it was more of a continuous thing in your life.
Yeah, guys, well, thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be here. Education's been something I've cared about a long time. Now, when I was in high school like you guys, I definitely wasn't thinking about education. I was thinking about sports and like dating and being cool. I thought, what was the coolest place? I'm from San Diego, California originally, and I was thinking, where's the coolest place I can go to school for university? And I was like, Hawaii. So I'm like, I'm gonna go to Hawaii, I'm gonna do sports, and one of my favorite sports journalists, his name is Dan Patrick, he went to Hawaii, so I'm like, I'm gonna follow in his footsteps, I'm gonna do sports journalism, it's gonna be great. And so I went to Hawaii, I started studying there, I got a job at a surf shop, which is the coolest job you can get, right, in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I started doing some shadow work at the Honolulu Star, journalism, right? And started just kind of, that reality became like, oh, this is real life, this is what it really is. Because when you're in high school, you're thinking, I want to do this, I want to do that. But unless you intern, or unless you actually like shadow someone, you don't really know what it is until you actually,
Of course.
Get into it. So in Hawaii, I'm working at these different places, and I started to realize, I'm like, man, journalism isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was just going to be hanging out with my favorite sports stars as they win the championship, and we're like all like partying together.
Yeah.
No, that is not it. It's there's a dark side to it. There's a lot of competition between journalists, those kinds of things, and it's kind of cutthroat, a little cutthroat. It wasn't the same vibe I was wanting for my life. But more so than that, it was me going into an elementary school. So I went to the university, I said, hey, I got this job at the surf shop, but I need to get a job with more money, but I want it here on campus. Can I work at the library and get paid to study? And they said, no, that job's taken, but we have a job for you to work at elementary school. And I said, sure. I want to be a good dad one day, Little League and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And being in that school, like all those memories from elementary school kind of came rushing back, and it was just so nostalgic and so cool. And I had so much fun, and it was like time just whizzed by. It wasn't work. Anytime I had another job, I'm like, okay, when do I get out of here?
Because you were around kids. It's like,
Yeah, I'm just helping kids. We're playing around, we're messing around. I got tasked with teaching this little girl how to read. And I started by playing tic-tac-toe, and then I started doing like, okay, let's do different letters. Instead of X and O, let's do A and B and C, and then we started doing sight words, and this teacher came up to me and they're like, hey, Roxanne, she only got 5 out of 10 on the spelling test. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll try better next time. She's like, no, you don't understand. She's never gotten a word right once all year. How'd you do that? And I was
wow.
I was like, I don't know, I was just playing tic-tac-toe. I just, Anyways, and I remember just had one day, 2 shifts. One was at the surf shop, rough day. My boss, he's pushing me on sales, and I just felt like I didn't like his style of sale. Let's just say that. So it was, when do I get out of here? Then I'm in the school. I walk into the school, and I see this guy, and he's dressed the way I'm dressed now. He's got a tie on, but the difference is in his pocket, he's got some crayons. And I thought that was so cool, because I'm like, I always wanted to be like a business guy. I wanted to always have a tie on. And I thought, as a teacher, you can't do that really. And it was so cool seeing him. And then by the end of the day, that happened with Roxanne or whatever, and I was just like, man, this is so cool, I want to be a teacher. And so it's a long answer to an even longer question, which was like, why am I doing this? It all started there, which was interning, working with kids and starting there. I'll say that 2 things. One, whatever it is you end up doing, if it doesn't feel like work, that's kind of the thing that you should be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can put in hours of time and you're like, this is just awesome, this is fun, that's probably something you should be doing. And 2, which is my core values as me as a human, I just learned this about myself as I aged, was one, I love helping people and I love learning. Like those are my two things. And as an educator, that fits in really nicely. Now I could have done other things that have those same tenets, but like with education, you're always learning and you're always helping people, especially with technology. So that's why I kind of went from teacher to a tech guy, because you always have to learn with tech.
Yeah. So you've worked in classrooms from California to Qatar to Nigeria. How did these global experiences shape your vision for Tech My School?
Yeah, so I have a nonprofit here in Puerto Rico called Tech My School. I did not come here to start this. It was one of those things that just kind of happened. And I have a different lens than most people, because I started in Hawaii, but I thought I'm going to be a teacher. I'm just going to go back to California and teach in my local elementary school and give back. Well, long story, I had a college roommate who was from Sweden. We started to travel and explore Europe, and I was like, man, traveling is so awesome. I wish I could teach, but also travel. And it turns out you can. It took me a couple months of research, but there's something called international teaching. So one of the schools in Puerto Rico you guys might have heard of is called TASIS.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what it stands for?
No.
No.
TASIS stands for the American School in Switzerland. So,
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a school in
Yeah.
in
so
Switzerland.
there's TASIS
called
Switzerland, and I have a friend who's a tech director there. Like I became a CTO. There's one in England, there's one in Portugal, and there's one here in Puerto Rico. But there's in every major city there's an international school. What's really cool about this job is that you're working at great schools like Baldwin. The educators are awesome, so they're all diverse from different places. It's very like global in that sense. They pay your housing, they pay your flights. You also benefit from the expatriate tax exemption, so you don't have to pay tax on any of the money you make.
Right.
So with that money, you can invest it into something else. So even if you want to be a teacher or get your start as an educator, you can use that money to then deploy it into something else, which is what I ended up doing. So I went from teaching in San Diego, because I did go back to San Diego. I graduated from San Diego State University. I started working inner city schools in San Diego, and then when I found out about international teaching, I went to Kazakhstan, Qatar, Silicon Valley, got my master's in IT, Saudi Arabia, Lagos, Nigeria, and then Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of places.
That's
sorry,
crazy.
a long backstory, but it's different in the sense that like most people don't do that. They haven't lived in Europe and Asia and the Middle East and Africa and all those kinds of things, and so my lens is based off that journey. Anyone who's in the field of international teaching has a similar journey of seeing all these different things, but when it comes to entrepreneurship, mine is more social entrepreneurship. So I came to Puerto Rico to write a book, and I did write the book. It's called Tech-Centered, Learning-Driven. But I was a remote learning specialist before COVID. So that means my job was to go into schools, work with teachers, and get them ready in case the school shut down.
Yeah.
Whether it's a hurricane or political, or in my case, I went to Africa because of Ebola. You guys ever heard of Ebola?
No.
Don't
No.
get Ebola. It's a terrible disease. But there was like this kind of like viral.
Oh wait, it's like deadly, right?
Super deadly. You bleed out of.
I think I've seen like
eyes and
videos
stuff.
about it.
It's
Yeah.
Google it. It's gross. Anyways, I was brought into Africa to kind of set the stage for Africa for this American school in Lagos for remote learning, and then COVID happened. So COVID happened and the world shut down.
Yeah.
And so my school was kind of freaking out for like 5.5 seconds until I'm like, guys, here's the book. I wrote the book for it. Here you go. We're ready to go. So we were totally good to go. Like we didn't miss a beat for our school. Like we were good. Our teachers were already trained. We had remote learning days. Like it was awesome. But I kind of burned myself out in the process. My wife's an educator too. She was kind of burned out. And she's like, okay, when our contract is done, let's just go to an island and like chill. And then you can write your book and then we'll just fish.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And so we were debating about which island to go to. So we're like, we're either going to go to Tanzania in Zanzibar, beautiful island, we've been there before, Koh Samui, Thailand, or Puerto Rico. And we ended up choosing Puerto Rico for two reasons. One, I studied Spanish for a number of years in school, but I was terrible at it. Like, I'm from San Diego, I'd go to Mexico, I could order like some tacos or whatever, but not good. Like you
Yeah.
need immersion to really learn a language, I
Yeah.
believe. So I was like, I want that I have 2 boys. I'm like, I want that for my sons. The second thing is Costco. Like Puerto Rico has Costco, and
Yeah.
I'm like, when you live in these other random countries, they don't have Costco. They have like their own supermarket with
Right.
their own food, and you're like, I miss my food.
It's 2 minutes away
Yeah,
too.
it's like you have best of both worlds.
Yeah, so I was like, this is a little bit foreign, but it's not. It's America, but
Yeah.
it's Spanish, so that's really cool. And so I got here, and I was working at this great school in Africa, but I was also doing a lot of outreach. So I was working with orphanages, working with local schools, donating stuff. So we were kind of had that program set up. So I knew what was going on in Africa in terms of what schools look like in Africa. I know what local schools look like in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East. So I have an idea of where schools are at and where American schools are at. I've worked in inner city schools. I've worked in wealthy private schools. So I've seen the gambit. I put my boys in a local school in Puerto Rico, and I was thinking it's going to be like Hawaii. Hawaii is an American island. The locals are kind of dubious towards non-Hawaiians.
Yeah.
Their test scores aren't great. They're towards the bottom of, on the ranking of U.S. And I was thinking, Puerto Rico is going to be something similar. Well, I know you guys go to Baldwin, but if you've been to other schools around the island, it's not like Baldwin. So when I put my boys in the school, I'm like, holy smokes, this looks just like Africa.
Yep.
Why? Like, why are these American kids getting an Africa-style level education? And what do I mean by that? Just the eye test. I go into a building, it's a cement block. The classrooms have a chalkboard, a fan, some desks in a row, and like that's it. Maybe a couple books, no libraries, no playgrounds really. It just looks terrible. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm overthinking it. So I put my son's in this school, and I ask questions. I'm an educator, so I can like kind of see through the matrix.
Yeah, so you can have like an
Yeah,
idea.
I know. I'm not like a parent. Like I know school like intimately. I've done it for 25 years. So I started asking questions, and they're saying things, and I'm like, yeah, this is a huge red flag. So let me just go into school and see what's going on. And when you're an educator, you can kind of walk your way through a school, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you know the language, and you know how to talk to people. So I'm walking through the school, and I'm like, man, this is even worse than I thought. Like seriously, it was worse. And I was like, let me look at the data. So I look at the data, I start researching. There's something called the PISA test, P-I-S-A. It tests math, reading, and science. And it's a global test. So there's like hundreds of countries who do it. And Puerto Rico went into it, and they scored themselves as an independent country. Where do you think they scored?
Last.
Last. They scored last. So what do I mean by last? I mean they scored worse than Chile, worse than Mexico, worse than Thailand, worse than Cambodia, worse than every European country. And then when it came to the U.S. mainland, they scored 4 to 5 grade levels below them, which means if you're like a 12th grader now in Puerto Rico, you're at like a 7th grade reading level in like Mississippi.
Wow.
Wow.
And for me, I'm like, this is so grossly like inadequate. It's so disproportionate in terms of what I've been to 65 countries, and your passport kind of defines your citizenship, right?
Yeah.
Everyone here is an American citizen. They all have the same blue passport, right? So I'm just thinking, and this was before I knew all of the history of Puerto Rico and da-da-da. I just kind of like, beautiful island, Costco, let's go, right? So I'm just like, all these American kids are getting ripped off. They're getting this terrible education. I'm like, I'm supposed to buy a boat. I'm supposed to like treat myself. And I'm like, I can't. I literally can't sleep because I'm knowing these kids are getting this terrible education. And education is kind of the foundation of society.
Yeah.
If you have, there's a direct corollary between GDP and like test scores. So if your country or state has really high test scores, high GDP, and vice versa, right? So I just couldn't help myself. I said, hey, I know it's the first week of school. You don't know me. I'm some random guy. But I noticed your classrooms don't have books. You don't have a library. You don't have computers. All these different things. I'm like, can I get you guys a library? Would you guys like a digital library, 40,000 books, can I get that for you guys? And the teacher's like, or the director, she was like, yeah, that would be great. And I'm like, all right. And so I started down that journey of started with the library and then computers and emails. And I just went down, I'm like, oh my God, they have nothing. So I was just like this and this and this and this and this. And yeah, I ended up going from new parent to doing professional developments and training all staff the first month.
Wow.
Wow.
Which that doesn't happen normally, right? And yeah, and then throughout that school year, teachers started talking to each other. They're like, hey, there's this guy, he's giving us computers and training, he's awesome. You should reach out to him and see if he will help your school. And so others, like
Other
teachers,
schools
like reached out, like, hey,
Yeah.
can you give us computers and training and awesome stuff for free? And I was kind of like, all right. And so
That's
I
where it started.
started with it, and that's how we got to so many. So a little bit of a long story there, but that's kind of the basis of that's how.
That's a great
That's
story.
amazing. Yeah, it's a great story because you didn't initially come here with that mission, but you came here and you noticed and you just developed that mission. That's it.
Yeah, I wish that I didn't have Tech My School. I wish it didn't exist, honestly. I wish we were at Mississippi level so that I could just, I would have used, because coming here, I saved up for this boat, right, to go fishing, but Tech My School is my boat. Like, I use my boat money to fund these
Yeah.
schools. And then after a certain time, after like maybe 8 months into it, I was running out of my boat money and my year was coming to an end. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my year and I'm going back to my awesome international lifestyle where I'm working in these great schools and I'm traveling around the world 4 times a year. I'm going to go because that's it. My wife and I were walking on the beach and this couple came up to us and like, hey, what's up, blah, blah, blah. They were like American couple and they said, hey, are you here for Act 60? And I'm like, no. What is Act 60? Do you guys know what Act 60 is?
No.
That lay.
Oh, the law, yeah.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, Act 60 is a law where investors and business people and entrepreneurs
They move
come
in.
from the U.S., and I say the U.S. loosely because Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., but from the mainland, they come here, and if they have a business that's like in Connecticut or in Florida or whatever, they can still run their business remotely from Puerto Rico, but by doing that, they pay like 4% in tax instead of like 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these people who come here, some of them are saving
A lot of
millions
money.
and millions of dollars. But for Puerto Rico, it's awesome in the sense that if they weren't here, they wouldn't get that 4%. That 4% would go to that other state. Instead, they're coming here and they're like, sweet, we get 4% for free. They just lived here and we get 40%.
Right.
So that's great. Plus, they're building homes, they're going to restaurants, they're spending a lot of money, so they help with the local economy. Because if you're going to live here, you want it to look nice.
And they
that's-
invest in here, yeah.
They
Yeah.
invest here, and that's how these big communities are formed, like in Palmas and Dorado and all
Right.
these different places, because they're like, we want to, have nice surroundings because we're wealthy people. Anyways, they said, are you Act 60? I said, no, I don't know what that is. Well, there's a caveat. One of the caveats with Act 60 is they have to donate once a year to a local Puerto Rican nonprofit. They have to donate depending on what year they came here, because there's like grandfathered years in. It's either 5,000. It's either 0 if you're here early, 5,000 if you're here like before maybe 2018, and then 10,000 if you're beyond that. So basically, if you came here like 3 years ago, you have to donate 10,000 a year to a local nonprofit somewhere in Puerto Rico. And for that sounds like a lot of money, 10,000. But I mean, again, if you're instead of paying millions in taxes,
You're saving
you're
a lot
paying
of money.
10,000. Like my brother's a teacher. He spends a lot more than 10,000 on taxes than, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 10,000 is like nothing. And what's cool about it is you get to choose where that money goes. Normally the government just takes your money and who knows what they do with it, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm a nonprofit and I didn't know this existed. Let me see if I can raise some money. And so I just went out there and I started like going out. And that's really when Tech My School became entrepreneurial, was when that happened. Because before that, I was just using my money, my brain, my experiences to just give back and help these kids.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like that was the right thing to do. But once it became like, okay, well, your money's running out. You're going to have to go back overseas because that's it for you. Or you can try to reach out to these Act 60 stranger people and try to get them interested in what you're doing so you can get donations so you can keep serving schools in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And so that's really for me when I felt like entrepreneurship really kind of happened. There have been times in my life when entrepreneurship kind of came to me, but they're always through necessity. So like you guys are proactively entrepreneurial, you're seeking it, you want to do it, and that's phenomenal. I mean, honestly, I think if schools did a better job of harnessing that, mindset, there would be a lot more entrepreneurs out there, and I think society as a whole would be better because there would be so many more businesses and so much more, accessibility. But the only times I had been entrepreneurial was when something was off. Like, example, when I was teaching in Silicon Valley, my wife was at home with the babies. I had 2 sons, infants, mom's at home. We're on a teacher salary, so we're making nothing. In Silicon Valley, I shouldn't say nothing. I was making $55,000 a year, which in Puerto Rico would be like a great salary, right? Or a decent salary. But in Silicon Valley, like, it's terrible because I'm right on Google campus. So like the engineers there are making like $500,000 a year. So the rents are crazy and I'm like the poorest person in society. So anyways, I'm teaching there, it's great, love the school. My oldest son, who's 3, gives a cold to my infant newborn. And so I'm paranoid, you have a little baby, is it gonna die?
Yeah.
He's kind of sick, he's only a week old. His son and I, we go to the ER, because that's the only thing that's open to put him in for medical. We're sitting there in the ER, we're hanging out, and we don't see anyone, but they're like, hey, we want to give your kid all these tests. I'm like, well, how much is it gonna cost? Because I'm a broke teacher. I had medical insurance, but they keep charging, right? And I was like, they're like, oh, we'll tell you in the morning. Long story short, I'm glad I said no to those tests because there were thousands and thousands of dollars, like $50,000 just to do these stupid tests.
Wow.
So I saved on that. My son got a little bit of oxygen. I think they gave him like a little baby pill, like a Tylenol for babies. And we were out of there. We were there for like 30 minutes, right? Even with insurance, they sent me a bill, $10,000. And for me, I was like, wow, that's insane because I'm like barely making rent.
And that's a lot of money too.
$10,000. So I'm like, how am I going to pay this off? And so what I ended up doing was I did an after-school coding class. I told my school, I'm like, hey, I want to do an after-school coding class on campus. I'll give you guys 10% of whatever I make. We'll see if the kids show up. And I did it, and in like one semester, I made $10,000, and I'm like, cool, my medical bill's done, and my entrepreneurship's over. So I just made the $10,000, paid off the medical bill, and that was it. And so here in Tech My School, that was the next time. It was like something happened where I needed to like make it happen, basically, to keep it going.
Yeah, you needed to improvise, and that's where your leadership skills came in.
I mean, I don't know if it's leadership skills. It's because anyone who goes into entrepreneurship, it's like when you first do anything, any venture, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an experienced business person. If you're going into a new venture, let's say you create a new product. Like I'm going through this now. I've created a new product that I believe is it's a niche product, but I really feel like the market, once they understand what it does, is really going to accept and want this product. So I invested my money, my time, my efforts, my marketing, my brain, all that stuff for this product, and then I go out there and try to sell it. But you never know how the market's going to really take it. I mean, you could do feelers, you could do other things to kind of guesstimate, but until the rubber meets the road, you aren't really sure. And so any entrepreneur, every time you start a new venture, there's always that new excitement of, is this going to work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, am I an idiot for thinking this? Like, did I just talk myself into doing this and investing all this money to do this thing and now it's going to fail? But you just have to understand it's part of the journey and you just have to do it. Like, you have to walk through it. And even if you do fail, you just do another one.
It's just part of the process.
Yeah, 100%.
So Tech My School has reached over 40 schools and more than 4,000 students. What would you say is the biggest challenge to building something of this scale?
Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges that come with running a nonprofit, and it's only pushed me further into entrepreneurship because with every single school that I say yes to, like someone hears about us, they see an Instagram post, they have a teacher friend, they came to a conference or just they heard a commercial, they want Tech My School because we provide a phenomenal service to schools in Puerto Rico. We come in, we do an audit, we find out all the problems of the school, we create a plan, and then we just fulfill that plan. We donate computers, we donate software, we train teachers, we do after school coding, we do esports, we do all this stuff. We have the best conference in the island, all for educators, and we also do it for free. So we can't beat that. And so every school that we say yes to, we're like, yes, we are going to take you on as a school, and especially if it's a poor school or a public school or whatever. For me, that's like a $50,000 to $80,000 liability, meaning I have to raise $50,000 to keep it going for this school this year, and I don't know how much I'm going to make.
Yeah.
I literally do not know how much I'm going to make because you only get your donations like the last week of the year. So these Act 6 people donate, right?
Yeah.
It's like paying a phone bill. Who pays the phone bill early?
Yeah, so you don't know
Yeah.
what amount of
Nobody.
money you're expecting.
Yeah, no one pays early. They want their money to be in the market, making money for them in stocks or whatever. And they'll pay like that last weekend. So like, I'm like, all right, this year we're going to take on 10 more schools. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got to generate like 500,000.
Yeah.
And then come December, like last year during December, I remember like we had a nice little start at the beginning of the year. We're like, okay, we're doing pretty good compared to last year. We're doing great. But then but then December hit and like no one donated. And I was like, oh man. And then it was like the last weekend. It was like the last weekend of the year. And then the year before, everyone donated on that weekend. I don't know why. It was like that Saturday, Sunday. It was like, okay, it's a weekend. Let me just donate. So last year, 2 years ago, everyone did that. And so I was like, okay, big weekend, big weekend. The weekend happened, I got one donation. It was from my aunt for like $100 or something. And I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to tell all of these schools, sorry guys, I can't serve you guys anymore. We can't
Wow.
get you guys. You know what I mean? And I have to say that to these kids, these teachers, like I don't wanna,
Yeah.
sorry I
You
wasn't.
don't want to feel bad too either.
Yeah, so I feel super bad. Like, I'm sorry I wasn't able to like schmooze enough people at parties to get them to care about kids. And so, thankfully, they all donated like that Tuesday. Everyone came through, but it was like really hectic. And I thought to myself, like, man, I need to create more value for the market where I can charge money, so I can at least keep my schools in case people don't donate. And then simultaneously, what's extremely difficult is the fact that within the Act 60 donation realm, before going into this venture, I didn't really know much about nonprofits. Like I worked for schools that were nonprofits, and I heard of nonprofits, but I never really like knew it.
Or understood what it was.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that industry. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know the psychology of it, and I found that it's not what it's cracked up to be in the sense that like I went into it with like earnest intentions because I was feeling this call to action to serve Puerto Rican kids in schools. Like that was my mission, and I'm like, that is my mission. It's like my life's mission. That's all I do now. 7 days a week, 365, I'm doing Tech My School, I'm helping kids. But there's other nonprofits that are like, oh, all I have to do is get a picture of like a cat, right? And then tell everyone like, oh, I have one called the Gatos, and the Gatos, I save the Gatos.
Yeah, they don't have the best intentions.
Yeah, and they just go around to all the parties where all the Act 60 guys are, like, here, I'll buy you a drink. Hey, you're cool, man. Hey, will you donate to my nonprofit?
Yeah.
The Gatos, you have a cat, right? And they're like, yeah, sure, bro. They're not doing their research. They don't care.
They're just
like,
like
I just have to
donating
pay a
money,
bill
yeah.
to somebody.
Yeah.
As long as you have the paperwork, I'm cool. And so there's literally thousands of nonprofits on the island, and a lot of them are fake.
No, it's zero mission, zero empathy.
But yeah, like they'll have a mission, but they don't do anything. They have
They're
like,
like scams, right?
It's not real.
it's like, yeah, the way you can tell if it's nonprofit's real or not, go to their Instagram page and see if they're posting every day of the thing they're supposed to be doing. If you're doing gatos, it should be every day, like you're petting cats and like giving them food or whatever you're doing, right? Like in our Instagram, if you go to Tech My School on Instagram, you'll see every day in schools, coding, training teachers, events, this, that, giving, donating.
So what do these people actually do with the money?
Great question. So there's very little oversight of this money once they get it. And that's another incentive to just like make this scam nonprofit there's just levels to this. So there's the scam nonprofits where they just like make something like I save the bees. but then they don't really do it. They have a couple pictures, because it's easy. You can do it on one Saturday. You can take a couple pictures in the jungle with some bees, put it on your website, make ChatGPT, make it look cool. There you go. Oh, these guys look legit, right? They don't do anything. Or maybe they do like 2 events a year. Schools are a community center. We're working with like 50 community centers. So we're like on it all the time, constantly working, grinding.
Right.
So it's not apples to apples with nonprofits. Or they may have a mission, they do something, but they're just casually doing it. It's a side hustle.
Exactly.
If I can go out there, have the gatos, I can convince 10 people to donate to me, that's $100,000.
And you're doing it full time too.
Yeah.
I don't sleep. You know what I mean? Like I'm working all the time. So that's, frustrating in itself. But then there's even worse. There are nonprofits out there that literally will throw themselves parties, and that's all they do. Like, oh, we're gonna have this party. It's a themed party for, our culture, our people.
It's fundraising.
It's just it's just like I'm gonna do it for this type of party,
Right.
and they just throw themselves this awesome party. They bring people in from all over the place. They give themselves awesome food. And then the donors are like, okay, well, I can donate to you and you're helping kids or schools or whatever you're doing. Or I can donate to this nonprofit and I get this awesome themed ethnic party. I'm going to that one because it's free food. Like, why would I not go to that one, right? So, those are our challenges of just like fundraising locally. And it's a very niche thing.
It's like competing against like all these people that are like doing like scams basically.
Some
Yeah,
of them.
they can
When you're
really,
like being legit.
again, they could really be doing a nonprofit. They could really be like, okay, what we do is we do beach cleanup, and they do 4 beach cleanups a year.
Yeah, it's not full time. It's
4
like
days a year. They go for a few hours,
That's
clean up
nothing.
some trash.
No, there's a lot of those.
You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, we're in schools, like sometimes 3 or 4 schools in a single day. And so it's like, it's hard to differentiate and to let donors know, like, there's levels to this. And so it's like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, because the donors, like, how are they gonna discern, like?
Correct.
Yeah.
what advice would you give to young leaders who want to innovate within traditional systems like education or government?
Yeah. So most innovation comes from someone seeing a problem or a gap and saying, hey, that needs to be solved. I'll talk a little bit about the problem that my company solved recently, but I'll go back into young people. I think a really great way to do that, because you only really know your bubble. Like, your classroom, your school, your teachers, your friends, and your state or country, right? You know Puerto Rico. So I would highly recommend young people to travel as much as possible. Travel to other cities, travel to other countries. Get your passport and just go. It's very easy to get your passport here in Puerto Rico, by the way. It takes like 2 days. And so get your passport, go to Europe, go to Asia, go to Africa, go to all these different places. Because what you're going to do is you're going to see an entirely different society of people living their lives, doing different things. And you're going to immediately be like, oh my God, they have this? We don't have this where I'm at. Or, oh my God, they don't have the thing that's at my house. There's no tostones in Nigeria.
It's easier to identify the gaps.
Like there's plantains here. We need to make a tostones shop.
It's like having a
here
global
in
perspective
Nigeria.
on it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
and so that's going to be a very easy way for you to do that. A second thing is your passion. So if you're really passionate about something, that's also going to lead you to doing something that you like, because maybe you really like, jiu-jitsu or something. And that's your thing, is jiu-jitsu. You've done it since you were a kid, and you're like, I want to open up my own shop. I love jiu-jitsu. I want to open my own dojo. There you go. You don't have to really travel and do that, but passion.
Follow your passions.
Yeah, there's passion, and then also you want to make sure when you are following your passion, because that's what educators do say. I mean, teachers. I had to question myself that. So when I saw this gap, I came to Puerto Rico. I'm like, I have this money. I'm gonna buy this boat. It's gonna be great. And then I see this massive problem in society, and I'm like, my whole life I've told kids like you guys, I'm like, follow your passion, guys. If you see a problem, take action. Be a doer, not a bystander. Be a doer or whatever. And then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, have I just been lying to children for the past 20 years? Because I'm seeing this big problem. I know I can help, but if I don't do something, I'm a liar. Because I've been telling kids forever to make it happen and to do this step out and help. And so I was kind of compelled to. I'm like, that was really in my thinking. I'm like, I have to do this because if not, I'm just a liar.
Yeah, you felt responsible because of the advice you
Yeah,
had
I'm telling
given.
kids all the time.
It's
Follow
always
your
like
passion.
easier said than done too. So it's just like you can say it, but like actually doing it is like the hard
It's
part.
different.
Yeah, but the thing is, it is hard, but take that first step.
Right.
And then the second step, and then the third step, and then pretty soon you look back and like,
It's
this
just
is
a ripple effect.
correct. I mean, I look back at what I've done now. It's like, so full disclosure, you were asking me about like, hey, I need to prep these questions for this interview. I'm like, all right, I'm going to send you my CV. And the only CV I could find was my teacher CV, my educator CV before I came to Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so bad. Like, at the time I thought it was cool, but I was like, ugh, because I've done so much now. I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I've done way more. And it's because I've taken those first steps. Now, market research is important. So if you're really passionate about slugs, let's just say, and maybe there isn't a giant market for people who love slugs, you can make a slug store and invest $100,000 in a slug store and like, hey, come pet slugs. People might not like that, and then you're not going to do well. So it is important to do some market research before you get into it. It's not
The
just
topic, of course.
passion. I think a lot of kids go into university following their passion,
Right.
and they end up with like some weird degree in a liberal studies,
Or maybe like follow your passions, but like within the industry, try to look for a problem that you can solve.
No, and do the market research.
And do the market research,
It's
of
gotta
course.
be,
But
like, there has to be some sort of, if you're going to do it full time, there has to be a financial gain in it, so that
Yeah.
you can support yourself, and it's good to have financial stability. Like, I'm running a nonprofit. I was an educator. You know, I didn't go for the money, but it's still important to put yourself in a financial position to where you can live a comfortable life, that you can serve others, you can serve yourself, and yeah, so you want to make sure whatever entrepreneurship entry you're getting to, or if you're going into college, that your degree is going to result in you getting some sort of income or, you know, benefit other than the social component. Because there is a benefit for going to social reasons. You build a network, you have experiences, you'll join a fraternity or whatever, or a sorority, but there's just so many people I met in my life who went to school, got a degree in rhetoric, or got a degree in communications, or got a degree in whatever, and you're just like, they didn't do anything what their degree was. They're $150,000 in debt, and they're starting in a hole. I have friends who are, I'm 43, old guy. As you guys say, unk. I'm very unk, right? I have fellow unks who are still in college debt.
wow.
Because they followed their passion. They went to a music school in Boston, beautiful city, and it's very expensive there for schools. And they finished their degree. They didn't make it as a music artist or whatever.
And then
they met at the university together, so they both had a $250,000 student loan, so it's $500,000. They're in debt, and they've been paying it off for 25 years.
That's awful.
And they're still $100,000 down because interest rates keep going up,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not smart. Like, just, if you're not really sure what you want to do something practical.
But
Make
right
sure that
now,
it's a return on
we're living in
investment.
an era that AI is like taking over like a lot of jobs. So like, if we go back in time, and then you had to go like back to college, and let's say that AI was like popular back then, like, what would you study?
Yeah, like if I'm a kid now, I'm thinking about now because I have 2 boys, right?
Right. Yeah.
So my own kids,
Like,
I'm
in their
like,
perspective.
what am I preparing them for? And one of those, there's different routes you can take. One of those routes is not even university. That sounds insane, but you have to think about what is the return on the investment. I'm not saying don't go to university. I went to university. My aunt was a professor at Stanford. Like, university is amazing, but it's got to be the right scenario for you and what you want to do. And I only say that because I don't know, my kids don't really know what they want to do just yet. But if there are some scenarios where like going to university and getting $150,000, $200,000 in debt isn't their best option, right? And you compile in AI, that is also another delimiter, because it could be like, there's this fear that AI is going to take all the jobs. I mean, I think AI and robotics, they're going to take a lot of jobs, but I think those jobs that they're taking won't necessarily be the jobs that you want to be doing anyways.
It's going to create more jobs too, right?
So it's kind of like
Yeah.
when the chainsaw was invented, lumberjacks didn't go out of business. They could just chop more trees,
And adapt.
right? And so a modern example of that would be like AI is really good at reading x-rays, right? And so for those doctors who look at x-rays all day, they didn't go out of business. In fact, it's booming. Why? Well, before, to read an x-ray, to get your x-ray and have it read, it took highly trained specialists, it took a long time, there was error, blah, 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 and so you couldn't do that many. Now, if I'm one of those x-ray, I forget the official name, sorry, blanking on that name, the title of that job, they can do like 50 in a day, let's say, instead of 5 in a day. And so if they can do 50 in a day, because AI is helping them with their reading of it, the price of getting one plummets.
Right.
And so now I can go in for an x-ray, and not just because I broke my arm, but because I'm thinking, what if I have cancer, or I just want to check up, or you know what I mean? It's way cheaper to
Yeah.
do it. So it's that same thing. You're not going to, the adage saying is, AI isn't going to take your job. People who know how to use AI will, right?
Right.
Now, what should kids be studying right now? I mean, that's a phenomenal question that I continue to ask myself. There are some people, because it's a big debate right now globally, because AI is, the difference between AI and a chainsaw is that the AI can think and create now.
Right.
And it's going to get to a place which is already starting to, where it's going to start to create and think better than we do, and create and think in ways that we can't even conceptualize.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the thought and knowledge-based jobs will go away. I'm not exactly sure when that whole magic day comes where all jobs are taken away and robots are just doing everything for us, or if that day will ever come. But I would say it's still important to, I think anything that's experiential is still going to matter. Because if I'm on a computer, I'm like, hey, write this essay. Hey, look at this x-ray. Hey, whatever, ChatGPT, do this thing. That's still on a computer, but we're in a room right now. If I said, hey,
Learn about podcast or something.
yeah, well, learn about podcast or having a podcast, or it could be like, let's go out and paddleboard.
Right.
Like, how is AI impacting your paddle? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could have, if I'm in Puerto Rico, I want to start a business with paddleboarding. If you want to buy a paddleboard, they're cheap. You can go on Amazon, you get them for $100. A lot of tourists come here. You can have a paddleboarding business here. Robot's not going to take your job. AI is not going to take your job. You're just going to use AI to help you market and to make stuff. So
Right.
I would say learn AI, learn prompt engineering.
Adapt to it, right? Like
Yeah,
using all these
just
resources that
embrace
exist.
it. I would honestly, what I would do is, I would be learning AI better than anyone else. I'll learn all the new apps coming out. I'll learn it deeply. I would go into like just absorbing as much of it as you can.
And how
into
to
these
apply
tools.
it to what you're doing too. I think it's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and then applying what you've learned. And what I would do is I would be door knocking all the boomers and all of the old people and being like, hey, I know you're old and you're rich and awesome and whatever.
Let me teach you.
You don't know about AI, and here's how it's going to help your business. Let me help you use AI in your business.
Yeah.
And it could be just mom and pop, or it could be like bigger businesses. And I think if you did that, that would be a really good way to go. So just embrace the technology, learn the AI, and or if you want to go away from tech, do experiential tech stuff. I think that's some of those classic things are like relationship stuff are still going to be really big because we're human, right?
I feel like the most important part is like adapting to it, because like right now for the podcast, like of course social media helps us a lot, because like this is the reason we are able to do this, like and upload it. But we also use like AI to upgrade our website to make it look better. We use it to like edit some shorts for Instagram, for Reels and
Automate
TikToks.
It makes your
Like
life
it helps a
Yeah.
lot. It's just like, how do we apply it, you know?
Yeah. How
Yeah.
do you use it?
Yeah, so the product I started, I was in January, I was in Orlando. I was at an EdTech conference, and my goal at this conference was to get teachers to come to Puerto Rico. I want to put Puerto Rico on the map for education in a positive way. I want us to be like an EdTech epicenter. So teachers and schools are doing awesome things with ed tech, and that other people from across the world are looking to us as like, what are these guys doing? What kind of innovative stuff are they doing? So I'm trying to get teachers to come to our conference. I'm trying to get speakers. This gentleman walks up to me and he goes, hey, tell me about Tech Plan School and what you're doing. And he had a badge on and he had it backwards so I couldn't see his name. And I'm just talking about our story, how we go into schools, we do this audit, we then create this tech plan, and then we help them fulfill this tech plan. Because honestly, a lot of schools, they have no idea why the tech they buy, or they don't understand AI, or they don't understand tech because they don't have a tech director. Maybe they have an IT guy, but that's it. The director's kind of over his head with, you know, parents and whatever, football, and all this different stuff. So they're not tech specialists like I am. I'm able to go there and personally and create this really great framework for them to go off of, and then based off that framework, that helps them make decisions. But most schools are just like, oh, that school has it, we have to have it. St. John's has interactive flat panels, we need to get flat panels, you know? And so it's just keeping up with this Joneses mentality. So I'm telling him how I'm doing it, and the guy goes, hey, can you do what you do for 1,000 of my schools? I'm like, 1,000? I'm like, no, I can't do 1,000 schools. He's like, yeah, because I'm the Google rep for Florida, and I want you to do 1,000 schools in Florida of what you're doing. I'm like, my team is too small. Like, I have like 5 guys. Like, no. But in my mind, I'm like, that was like my indicator because I've been wanting to put this process into a software. I'm like, I need to put this into a software, and I need to take my brain and my knowledge and make it so that AI can replicate what I'm doing.
And how you can scale it too. Yeah,
and that's how I can scale it to anyone in the world. And so I've done that, and that's the product. It's called Tech Plan Genie, where we have a strategic planning module where there's 12 different steps you take, and as a principal or as a tech director, you go through all these different stages to build this really awesome tech plan. And then once you have the tech plan, there's a genie that knows your school now, knows all the data, and can talk to you really specifically about what you need. Right, so it's a bot that's built just for your school that knows all the things about your school.
So each school has like its own bot.
Specifically curated.
Yeah, like what kind of professional developments are you doing for the teachers? How should I do this? The PE teacher just asked me this question. What should I do? Because when you're a tech director, you're one of one. If you're like a history teacher, there's like 5 other history teachers. You talk about stuff. And you're the tech guy. You're the only tech guy.
Yeah.
And if someone says, "Hey, do you know this?" You're like, "Yeah, I totally know that." And you go, you go look it up. You go look it up. But this bot knows your school. And then another thing that's bad with plans is when you make a plan, you feel really good about that process, but then once the plan is made, you put it in a shelf and you don't touch it. Maybe you look back at the end of the year like, oh yeah, what were we supposed to do? Oh yeah, I guess we did this. But what Tech Plan Genie does is every month you're entering all the different things you did for your plan, and it bugs you like, hey, do this for your plan. You're supposed to, and it kind of, this month you do this month you do that.
Yeah.
And so it keeps your plan alive. And at the end of the year, you click generate report, and it takes all your work and puts it in this beautiful downloadable PDF that's editable, so you can give it to your parents, you can give it to your board members, you can give it to the whoever, to be like, look at all this awesome work I've done. Because that's another thing as a tech director, people are always wondering, like, what does the IT guy do? Do you ever wonder that, like at your school, like
comes to the classroom when like the Wi-Fi doesn't work? Or
that's it, right? They're like, as long as the internet's working, like, what is that guy doing all day?
I have no idea.
And they may be doing a lot of stuff, but you just don't know. And at the end of the year, it never is shared. Yeah. Well, with Tech Plan Genie, it gets shared, and then it saves your tech director so much time. It gives so much great guidance. It's such an awesome framework. It's so easy, and I also put it at a price point where any school in the world can afford it because I'm a social entrepreneurship type of guy. But now my challenge is just sharing this message to the world and hopefully getting people to understand what it is and to try it out.
Of course.
I will tell you, now that I've gone through this process of, it took us about 8 months to build the software. Building the software is frustrating and fun and challenging and all those things. And when you get done, you're like, whoo, we made it. But really it's like, no, we didn't make it. Now we actually have to sell it. And selling it is an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
Because you can have a terrible product, but if you have great salesmen, you're going to make money.
Right.
Or vice versa, you can have an awesome product, no salesman, you make no money, right?
Yeah.
So that's its own journey in itself.
That's its own beast to tame. So you've worked with major partners like Adobe and Reframe AI. How do those collaborations strengthen the impact of your mission?
Yeah, I mean, partnership's everything. So whether you're a coffee shop owner, a school, or a box factory. You want to partner with other people, other companies, because it helps build validity. It's like having friends in different areas and they can help you out. So for us, it's easy. We're in schools, we're trying to teach Puerto Rican teachers how to use the best technology so kids get the best education possible on the market. And there's so many ed tech tools out there. I just made one. What do I want my ed tech tool to be done? I want it to be used. I want people to know about it. So I go to one of these companies and I say, hey guys, I just did this audit. I know all the gaps in this school. Your product fits perfectly into this school. And we're a nonprofit. We're helping these poor schools. Can we have your product for cheap, for discount, whatever? We love your product and we just want to push it out. We'll put it on our social medias and we'll be an ambassador for you.
Right.
What do you say? For them, it's like, okay, I can give them, if it's a software, once it's made, it's made. So you're like, okay, you can have some discounted licenses or free licenses. You're helping poor kids anyways. Go at it. And now every time I'm out, I'm sharing their logo, I'm using their product, I'm pushing it out, I'm having them at our conference. So for them, it's just like great brand awareness. We're a good company, we're an ethical company, like we're a good story. So it's like, even if they're like, you know, one of the pushbacks on corporations and capitalism in general is that like greed is a problem. Like you're a rich company, you guys just care about money. That's why a lot of companies will always, you know, partner with nonprofits and partner with social groups because they want to let people know like, hey, we're successful, we like money to live our lives the way we want to live it, but we also care about humans and we're going to give back. So always try to find a bridge. And it doesn't matter if it's a ed tech company. We've had partners that are a barcoding company, like nothing to do with education. We have companies that are like, it doesn't matter. Like whatever your company is, we'll take a restaurant. It doesn't matter. We partner and we try to help each other out.
Yeah, like collaboration, I think is like one of the best tools.
Yeah, and just be positive and work in good faith. And also you have to think about, because it's easy for me to think like, you have stuff, give me stuff, right? But you have to think win-win. Like, how can I help them? And so that's why I'm just like, okay, if you give us these licenses, we'll buy some, give them out to the schools, and on our social media, we'll tag you. We'll put you out there. Anytime we have, you know, like we're trying to think of how can we give them brand awareness? How can we share their story as well? So that way they have more customers, so that way they get better business.
Okay, so when it comes to the classroom, if AI could eventually master most technical skills faster than humans, what human skills do you believe will become most valuable in future classrooms?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's actually, and it's actually debate here in Puerto Rico amongst the wealthy right now. There might be even some parents that are at your school that are considering it. There's something called Alpha School. So Alpha School, you might have seen on Instagram.
It's full online, right?
No. Well, there is an Alpha online, but what it is essentially, they have great marketing. And what they do is they have kids do 2 hours of personalized learning where they're using AI platforms to do math and reading and all that kind of stuff. And then the other hours of the day, they're doing entrepreneurial ventures. So it could be this podcast, it could be starting a business or whatever. So you think that's awesome. I totally would want to do that.
Yeah.
But for it to work, you need to have good leadership. You need that human interaction. You need good teachers. You need good soft skills to persuade kids, to have them working. Now, for me, you don't have to go to Alpha School and spend $50,000 a year to have something like that. These programs are free, or they like Khan Academy, or IXL, or whatever programs they're using. You can buy them for a lot cheaper than that program is. You know what I mean?
Is it online or is it like in person?
They're starting a school next year. There's like a campus. It's in Dorado, and they're still working it out. But essentially, there'll be a campus. There'll be a small cohort of kids, and that's the way they're going to structure it. But for my own kids, the first year I put them in this school, and then they were like they were not learning because the school, they were so far ahead and it was so like not good either. So then the second year I'm like, you know what, I'm going to keep them home. I'm going to do homeschool, and I'm an educator, so I know all these programs. So I put them in, gave them all the best programs, the best learning ones, Brain Pop, and all that stuff, Read Theory. And so they're doing it, and then I'm testing them on the math testing. They're in the 99th percentile for everything, for reading, for math, for all these different things. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, it's noon. They're sitting on their computer in their underwear. They're like 10 years old. I'm like, is this the kind of human I'm trying to create in the world? Like some and so like the most important part of school is like this.
The social part.
Yeah, like all those little micro learning lessons. Like, okay, we're friends, but you guys got in a fight, so I want to be her friend, but you guys got in a fight, so I have to navigate. You know what I mean? Like all those little things that you can't coach or replicate. So there's a lot more to school than just the giving the test score or whatever.
Yeah.
I love the idea of having entrepreneurship be a focus in school, and I believe it should be a core value in school. I think kids should be learning entrepreneurship from kindergarten, so that way those natural entrepreneurs feel successful at a young age and know this is what they want to do, because entrepreneurship is such a big part of life. But in terms of maximizing these programs, I just think that regular school should use these tools, and I think teachers should be facilitators, because our phones are smarter than us now. AI is smarter than us for the most part. So it's like, let kids get this personalized learning and let teachers coach kids based off their brain speed. And a perfect example is that, it's like, so now my son's in a school and he's in the 99th percentile, whatever. And so they're like, their big solution is they're like, okay, you're in 5th grade, so we're gonna make you be in 6th grade math and English. But it's like, he tests higher than 6th grade already, so really he's in a class that he's beyond, and now he's not with his social group. So you're taking him away from his friends,
Right.
Yeah.
and he's with these older kids who have like little mustaches and stuff, and so he feels a little bit awkward about it because there's like these big kids and he's a small kid, and you know what I mean? It's not good. Whereas what the school should be doing is have all the kids in all the same age in the same room, and everyone's doing that personalized AI tutor.
Yeah.
They're all learning together. They still care about Pokemon, and they're all 7 years old together, but one kid's doing fractions, one kid's doing subtractions, one kid's doing pre-algebra. And for that pre-algebra kid, good for him. When he has a question, I'll walk by, hey, how's it going? Let me help you solve that. The subtraction. Oh, to subtract, you go here to here to here. So the teacher's just roaming the room, working with each kid, but each kid's going at their brain speed. And when you do that, you get phenomenal results. And that's why these kids who go to these schools who are doing these personalized learning, they're in the 99th percentiles, because it's not because they're geniuses, it's because the majority of schools are doing it incorrectly, where you're all teaching. Like if I'm in a classroom and I'm teaching 30 kids, 15 of them already know what I'm saying. It's a waste of their time. 10 kids, way too hard.
Completely lost.
And there's like 7 kids that I'm kind of like, hey, he looks like he's at that challenge point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and then we end up teaching to the lowest common denominator. It's like, okay, well these kids are really bad, so we have to like really dumb it down so these guys get it, and these guys got an A, so they're fine. And I just need to make sure those Fs get up to like a D so they can graduate. It's like, it's so stupid.
Right.
It should just be like everyone on their own path, and maybe one kid is like, he's 10 years old, but he's in high school math, but he's like in, 1st grade reading or whatever. But it's like, it doesn't matter. That's just where their brain's
It's more
at.
individually created.
Yeah, so I think
for each
schools
student.
can very easily do that, but because we're still following this industrial model that is really entrenched in the university system, because everyone's thinking like, you guys are in high school, what are you thinking? What do I have to get an A so I can get into university?
Yeah.
Right? So that's your incentive structure. And then universities are like, we want this sorting system that was invented in the Industrial Revolution, and we want kids to be by percentages and blah, 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 blah. And so because of that, schools are like, well, we want to do it this other personalized way, but the universities are so antiquated that we're going to do it their way. So that's kind of like
doing
where
it according to the system where
because
application processes and stuff.
well, you have to think like, in many mission statements in your school, it probably says college preparatory. We're preparing kids for college. And schools may want to remove that because life is different, world is different.
Yeah.
For a lot of kids, college isn't their pathway for success. Maybe they're really, really talented, and their pathway is they're a talented welder. In Puerto Rico, I can tell you, they need help with welders. They need help
Trade
with
jobs
builders.
overall.
Trade jobs.
Like there's a guy whose house behind me, it hasn't been built in 4 years. He's a very, very wealthy individual. He can't find the builders. He keeps trying to find builders. They're not good. They steal. They're bad. He gets another group.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's like there's very few talented builders here. And so because of that, it's just a huge shortage. So maybe the best way this person can make money is by going to some sort of skills or trade school, learning how to weld, learning how to do concrete or whatever, and then starting his own business and becoming an awesome builder. Or just
that
going,
person doesn't need to go to the
or just
university.
going straight into it, working as an apprentice, and then start doing things. So those are my thoughts on it.
So, what's been your proudest moment so far? One that made you realize all the sacrifice was worth it?
Yeah, so it always feels like we're in a constant state of just like go, 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 and
You never stop
always
to
looking
realize.
forward, always expanding. How can I get bigger? Because our mission is to serve every kid in Puerto Rico. I don't care if you go to Baldwin or you're at the poorest public school or some little private school because there's 750 private schools in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of private schools here that aren't private. Like
For a small island.
But it's not, they're not private in the way Baldwin's private.
Yeah,
Because
of course.
in the mainland, when you go to a private school, it's like, oh, you're rich, you're privileged, you go to a private school. But here, it's almost the opposite in the sense that, like, because there's such a teacher shortage, there's no substitutes. So if you're going to a public school and I have a job and my wife has a job and I put my kid in school, if the teacher doesn't show up because they're sick, wedding, they're taking time off, vacation, whatever, the school calls you and says, hey, come pick up your kid. Now I can't go to work. Now I can't pay my bills.
Yeah.
So what they do is they find these private schools that are super low income where the tuition's like $200 a month, just so they can have someone watch their kid so they can go work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that said, there's so much need here and there's so much work and we're always digging and trying to serve more and trying to raise more money and trying to help. It's hard to look back and be like, what's my proudest moment? There's been times when there's been like kind of momentary pauses where I'm like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe my second year, I was thinking, how can I get Tech My School out there? I know I used to present at conferences, like these really fancy conferences around the world. I presented in like Abu Dhabi and Thailand and Greece and Cape Town and all these different places. And that was kind of my thing, was being a presenter and being professional or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to be presenting and talking about Tech My School. But then I thought about it, I'm like, why don't I just make my own conference? Because the teachers here don't get that awesome conference experience that I was experiencing when I was overseas. So I'm like, I'm going to put on an amazing conference for all these teachers. It's going to be 5-star. It's going to have the food and the dancers and great speakers. And it's just going to be like top shelf. And so we did, and we have, and we put on the best educator conference in the Caribbean. And I remember that first year when it kind of came to fruition, we were kind of sitting there. I was looking at the crowd, and I was kind of doing a selfie with my colleagues. I was kind of like, that's pretty cool. But I think the biggest one, even more so than that, was my kids. My kids sometimes will say stuff to me like, Dad, you're trying to help the entire island with education. Like, you're trying to like help all the schools. Like, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than you. Like, that's incredible. Like, they're like wowed by, I mean, all kids love their parents, but they're just like,
it's amazing, yeah.
But I'm used to that because even when they were smaller, they love you more. When they're like 5, they really love you. And, like, oh, Daddy!
Yeah.
Right? But they were still, I was just a guy. I was just like this person who was out of school. And not to say that being a guy is a bad thing or whatever. I was just an educator out of school. I was an important administrator out of school. Good for me. But this is so much bigger than one school or just one thing. It's just I'm helping all these people in all these schools. And so sometimes my kids will say things to me like, wow, that's amazing. Or like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be in Tech My School. I want to help these kids. Or maybe we can take this even bigger. Like, Dad, by the time I graduate, maybe like by then Tech My School already have Puerto Rico taken care of. And we can start helping Africa or all these other places because they've lived with me in these other places. They have a global perspective. They've been to like 30 countries. So they can see the potential of how we can serve so many different places. So I think that's been the biggest success for me, is just hearing it from my kids and seeing their impact. Whether people outside of my family think it's cool or not, that's been like the coolest part for me.
Yeah,
like your kids like telling you like how proud they are.
Like them trying to like conceptualize it is like much harder for them, and then when you see them in awe, it has to be like that feeling that you're
I mean, that's what you want. Your legacy is your kids, and so you want you want to make them proud. Like you want to be proud of your kids and you want to make them proud. So I think that's just, I guess, selfishly a very cool thing. But yeah, there's lots of little moments like that. Whether it's a teacher, I mean, another really cool moment again at the conference. So we did the Puerto Rican dance and da da da. We had these dancers come in. It was cool. And one of the teachers said, "Hey, you know, next year when the dancers come in, I want to come in and I want to dance too." And we're like, "All right, yeah, cool." She's a teacher. She's down in Las Piedras, and I was so focused on the conference. I'm worried about scheduling. Okay, this guy's speaking here, and I got to tell him move over here. And this person didn't show up, and I'm like organizing this big event. And then it was lunchtime, and the plan had come out, and everyone starts the bomba, and they all start dancing. And this teacher, she's a third grade teacher, she starts dancing. She's got her dress on, and she's going at it, and she's just super into it. Like she's really feeling the music, and she's a great dancer. And I was just like, that is so cool, because I could see how happy she was in that moment. And you know what else it did for me? It was kind of in that moment that I got Puerto Rico. Because if you're not from here, you don't really get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you've lived here and you know what's going on. And then as I've lived here, I've learned about the struggle and, colonialism and all these different things that get thrown out there, and like America, and then are we citizens, we're second-class citizens, and the poverty's right in front of your face, and all these different things. And I remember I was shocked because I'm like, okay, well I actually randomly worked in Africa. I worked with a guy from Puerto Rico.
Really?
So I worked with this guy. He's from Guaynabo. Okay?
That's such a coincidence.
Yeah, he lives very close to Baldwin. And he was in Africa with me, and I was like, hey, we're deciding where we want to live. We're going to go to Puerto Rico. And I was like, you're from Puerto Rico. What's it like? And da-da-da-da-da. And I asked him, and then once I got here, because he was kind of giving me some heads up, he's like, oh, the schools are bad. I'm like, nah, they're not that bad. He's like, trust me, dude, they're terrible. I'm like, nah, again, I'm thinking I've been to Hawaii, it's not that bad. They were. But when I got here, I'm like, okay, there's like these three factions, and I could be wrong, but there's like, we want to be a state. That's a faction of people. We want to be a state. We deserve to be a state. We've been part of America since 1898. Why aren't we a state?
Right.
Yeah.
That's logical. Another group is like, we don't want to be a state. We want to be our own country.
Yeah.
We
That's
are our
like
own
the
people, we
new
have our own-
generation.
Yeah, we have our own culture, we have our own music, we have our own food, we have our own da-da-da-da. We need to be our own country. There's a third party that's like, keep it the same.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, how could you ever want it to keep it the same? Like, that makes no sense. Like, either be a country or be a state. Like, why would you want to make it the same? And that's what my friend, who's from Guaynabo, that's what he was saying. He's like, I want it to stay the same. I'm like, why? How would you want to make it the same? And like, why don't you just want to make it a state? It's in my mind, I'm like, you'd have better roads, you'd have libraries, you'd have a lot more oversight. Like, there'd be all these investors coming in, and everything would just get like way more clean, and da-da-da-da-da, corruption would go down. But then I saw that third grade teacher dancing. And she's dancing, she's in that skirt, and she's just in that moment, just feeling it. And all the teachers, like there's an auditorium of people just clapping for her. And I'm just like, I know what would happen if this became a state. That would go away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I kind of get why they say they want it to either stay the same or be their own country, because yes, it's cool to have the libraries and all that other stuff, but we don't want to lose our identity. And I lived in Hawaii, so like you could see it. Like their identity's been super like whitewashed or like.
Yeah, and wiped out.
Yeah,
I mean, not wiped out.
It's there, but it's very kitsch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whitewashed.
It's very kitsch. It's like, okay, do the hula dance or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I think about, the hula dance.
Yeah, right? That's all it is, and that's what it's been boiled down to. So anyways, I kind of got it, and so that really stuck with me.
To finish today's podcast, the last question is, what legacy do you hope to leave through Tech My School and your work as an educator and innovator?
Well, ideally, I guess the dream is that we put Puerto Rico on the map for a positive reading with education. I want our schools to be known to be excellent. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to try our best to do that. I think with AI, we have a huge opportunity to do that, because we don't need specialized educators. We just need adults who are competent, who can facilitate. My brother's an educator in San Diego. He's a PE teacher. He's making like $110,000 just as a PE teacher. That's not the salary of teachers here.
Wow.
But any teacher here could go to San Diego tomorrow, because they're American citizens,
Yep.
and be a teacher and make $110,000. So that's what happens. There's full states that come in, Texas, New Jersey, Florida. They come in here every year and they poach every single competent person they can find because they can say, we're going to pay you 2 times more, 3 times more, 4 times more.
And it's hard to refuse the offer.
Yeah, and so people just leave. And so the mission of Tech My School is like, I want to build a society here where kids don't have to leave the island. They can be successful without having to leave. They have the skills, the tech skills, where they can develop businesses, they can create revenue streams for themselves. Even if they're selling coconuts, they can build an app or some sort of marketing thing where like they'll get more business or whatever it is. So really that's the dream of Tech My School is to build a society where Puerto Ricans can stay here and build the community here and then invest back into their community and society. And then in terms of legacy, I mean, who knows? Whether we have great educators on my team. They're people who could very easily go back to or go to the States, get a job, make 3 or 5 times more money than they're making here, but they stay because they love Puerto Rico. They love the society, they love the community, they love their culture, and so they stay. And there are those kind of gems that are on island that we kind of cherry pick to work with us. Whether it's one of them taking on Tech My School when I either tap out or retire or whatever, then continuing on with Tech My School and making it a bigger thing. Or maybe it's a family legacy where my kids say, I grew up in Puerto Rico, this is my home now, I love Puerto Rico, and I want to continue the mission and I want to keep it going. I guess that would be like a lasting thing. I would hate for it to be one of those situations. The worst case scenario is we're spending all of our time helping schools, helping kids. We're not investing enough time in going out to restaurants and bars, talking to random Act 60 people, saying, hey, can you donate? And then we don't do a good enough job of that, so we don't raise enough money, so we have to shut our doors. Or they change the law, Act 60 is gone, or whatever, and then now there's no income stream. And so that's why I'm like, I need to create other revenue streams so I can keep it going, because I love the people of Puerto Rico, I love the kids, I love the schools, I love the families, and I want to keep doing it. And so like that's the fear, is like it's shutting down, because I feel like an immense amount of pressure on myself. Like if I don't raise this money, I've not only failed my team, their families, because they have bills and mortgages to pay, but then every school that we're impacting and all the schools we didn't impact yet, because there's a lot of schools that don't know about us. And then once they know about us, they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You guys are awesome. We want that. And so that's why we keep expanding, like we keep growing by like 100% every year, because people here are like, oh my God, I want free stuff. I want this, I want that. And our mission is like, we will help every single school in Puerto Rico. The Department of Education, we have an MOU with them, and I told them, I'm like, give me your 5 worst schools. If you give me your 5 worst schools and I can make it happen there, I can make it happen anywhere. And so they gave us 5 schools, and we did our thing, we crushed it. And they were like, you did such a good job, we want to give you 137 schools. It was like a third of their inventory.
Wow.
Like, here's a third of our schools, go. And I said, no. Why did I say no? I wanted to say yes, but 137 schools.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of people. Like I need people to be there to donate. I'm like, I need the money. And they were like, oh, you want money? No.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, well, you saw what we could do with the donation money we're getting when we go to people asking for money, but like, you have money.
So like, were they expecting you to like use your own money for it?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of money for 134 schools.
Yes. But I want that. All it takes really is to meet the right person. That's my hope. Like every time I go out, like you just never know. When you network, always go out, always talk to people, always shake their hands, always look them in the eye and just tell them your story, because you never know the person you might meet next who's like, love what you're doing. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do what you're doing, but I want more of what you're doing. I can write a check. Here's a check. Boom. And then you're off. And then they give you that money, and then you take it, and then you expand your network, you expand your team, you expand the schools and the impact. So we're still waiting for that guy, because outside of Act 60, we've probably raised like however much money my aunt's given me or whatever. But we're still relatively new. We started in 2021. We've hit 50 schools, and we want to hit 500 schools, 750 schools. We want to hit every school in Puerto Rico and impact it in a positive way.
I believe that I will with AI and the movement, and like people's donations, and like you guys, like your drive to like make education better here in Puerto Rico. Then you'll be able to achieve it.
I hope so. I mean, I'm at a point now where whenever you go into a market, you hit a saturation point. So let's say I open up a cookie store. There might be other competing cookie stores, and like I'm only gonna get like 15% of the market or 20% of the
Right.
market, and that's my pie. That's my piece of the pie, right? I can't get more because there's too many other ones.
Right.
I think we've hit our saturation point for Act 60 donations because there's, like I said, there's like 2,000 of them or something like that, and anyone can start one, and there's a lot of not great ones out there. And so because the market's there's so many, we have to raise money elsewhere if we're going to get bigger, and whether that's through government contracts, through grants, through donors. We haven't even started tapping into the donors that are in like mainland U.S. The diaspora of Puerto Ricans. There's more Puerto Ricans living outside of Puerto Rico than in. So I think if Puerto Ricans just knew about Tech My School, I think we could probably raise some money. But I just don't. I don't have that network. I'm not Puerto Rican. I don't have cousins in New York who are wealthy and blah 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 blah. We just have to make it happen. So
Right.
yeah, we'll see. We're still babies in this journey. So,
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and
Yeah,
for being with
thank
us
you,
here
guys.
for
Thank you
1
so
hour.
much for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Love it.
Thank you.
All the best, and I'll be
Thank
following
you.
your journey as you guys continue.
Thank you so much.
And then, yeah, if you want to learn more about Tech My School, go to techmyschool.org. You can check us out on Instagram, Tech My School, @Tech My School. We also have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. If you're interested, if you're an educator and you want to learn more about Tech Plan Genie or how we can help your school, that makes your life 1,000 times easier. Whether you're a principal or a tech person, it's called Tech Plan Genie, so you can check that out. If you want to learn more about becoming an educator with EdTech, you can check out my book, Tech-Centered Learning Driven. That's on Amazon. You just Google my name. Or
We'll
the book.
link it below.
Yeah, put the link in the bio. And yeah, if you want to support Puerto Rico, the kids, the schools, donate to Tech My School. We'd love to have you on board and welcome you to the flock.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode.